Well, hi there. Welcome to Not Too Tight, Not Too Loose, the podcast about finding balance in the pursuit of well-being. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm good, Joe. How are you?
Very well. Thanks. I'm excited to talk to you about this episode that we're just releasing here.
Hmm?
So I had a chat with a client of mine, Giuliano Biagioni.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting story. He reached out to me uh, a while ago, maybe a year and a half ago. He's been struggling with PTSD for 12 years, following just like an awful incident that you'll hear him describe. Um, my co-therapist and I, Karine
Hmm.
Saint-Jean, we helped him get approval from Health Canada through the Special Access Program to do MDMA-Assisted therapy.
Hmm.
And we took him on that journey over a 4-month period in the spring of 2025. And it was absolutely amazing. Ultimately, as you'll hear, almost all of his PTSD symptoms were gone, and he no longer met criteria. And it was truly inspiring just to see what could be accomplished with that protocol, with that medicine. And of course, Karine and I really bringing our best of our skills
Hmm.
to supporting the process. And Giuliano had such a profoundly helpful experience that he felt it was important for him to do his part to help make these interventions more accessible and perhaps nudge the whole regulatory file a
Hmm.
little
Hmm.
further because he truly believes in their potential.
Hmm.
So I think you just listened to
Yeah.
the interview. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. It's interesting, our goal, I think, or one of our goals for this podcast is to bring really nuanced perspective to sort of cutting edge mental health treatments, among others. And I think, in our first episode, we talked about a lot about psychedelics. We talked about trauma. We talked about internal family systems therapy. And I think what struck me about this conversation that's interesting, and I don't know how we want to provide further sort of like context or caveats around it, but just how um, effective the treatment seemed to be for him,
Mm-hmm.
and not just the MDMA assisted therapy, right? But and the protocol, right? The three experience protocol following the sort of the MAPS approach, but also the IFS work that set it up, right? And also just his articulation of his real traumatic experience,
Yeah.
right? And I think in the first episode of the podcast, we talked about trauma and some of the backlash related to, how often it's referred back to as this core thing and how overdone it is. And
Yeah.
this listening to this episode was a real reminder of like PTSD is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
It can be really debilitating, and um, there are treatments that can be incredibly effective.
Mm-hmm.
At least in terms of where he's at now. I mean, folks will listen to the episode and can judge for themselves. But as someone who's heard a lot of psychedelic stories
Mm-hmm.
and also heard a lot of skepticism in response to them, it's nice to be reminded of these
Yeah.
these real experiences that people have had that are profoundly helpful. And it's really hard. It's really hard to listen to his story and not be really, just reinvigorated
Totally.
about the potential of
Yeah.
these interventions,
You
and
know,
angry about the difficulty of continued difficulty of accessing them
yeah.
through lots.
I'm glad you said that because this was the first time I had worked with MDMA in a clinical setting
Mm-hmm.
since my experience with a trial involving
Mm-hmm.
MDMA-assisted therapy, which I had not a great experience, and was part of a phase for me where I was wondering if these substances were safe enough to bring in
Mm-hmm.
to mental health treatments at scale, and um, this really did reinvigorate and inspire me in a way that I didn't think was possible.
Mhm. Mhm.
And yeah, so, uh, to the extent this does move the conversation forward for people and get them excited again about the potential. And this is his trauma was no joke. This was
Mhm.
pretty
Mhm.
serious business. And maybe I should just say, for the sake of everyone's safety, that there is some detail. He goes into some detail about what
Yeah.
happened to him, his experience recovering from that. And if people are sensitive to this kind of stuff, just listen with care and
Yeah.
be aware that you might want to turn it off or fast forward or whatever.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's a feel good story.
Mhm.
Maybe we
Mhm.
should also say that, again, this was done totally legally above ground,
Mhm.
um, and we're not condoning or encouraging the use of illegal substances
Mhm.
at all. This was, I think, a very high level of safety and
Yeah.
legality, all open, for um, regulators to see and all that kind of stuff. So this is what psychedelic assisted therapy could look like in a future where it's more accessible and regulated in a more balanced way.
I wonder, Joe, if there's anything else you want to say. It's also really, I think, brave of him
Yeah,
and helpful to just, it's, you say it at the beginning of the episode, it's rare for, a client and a therapist to then go and talk about their treatment. Is there any other context you want to sort of provide for that for folks? Like, it's really intimate, or are there any, how do you feel about that, just professionally, being like, here's what, we went through
yeah.
together, and here we're putting it out there for everyone to listen to.
It's a bit of a strange context in the sense that, you know, he and I and Karin,
Hmm.
as you said, went to some like very, very intimate places in this therapy. And it is unusual and strange to then sort of open that very private and very meaningful relationship up to
Hmm.
strangers, basically to the audience.
Hmm.
Um, but so it took some sort of navigation through the interview. But I think that's all Giuliano's his gift.
Hmm.
He's incredibly charismatic and open and honest and intelligent, and it's really his energy and his courage that kind of brought this to life. And I'm super grateful to him.
Uh-huh. And yet, and as folks will hear, there are a lot of forks in the road as you were going through the treatment, right?
Yeah,
Where there was various forms of resistance, or just risk, right? At one
yes,
point, one of the things that really stuck out to me was these two versions of him, right?
yeah,
So borrowing from this internal family systems like approach, where there's like, okay, and there was a part of me that actually experienced this trauma, and another part that kind of didn't, that came
yeah,
online, and they've been split. And then,
yeah,
one of them's having nightmares every night for a decade plus because it's being ignored during the day. And like that, just, of course, the way it sort of worked out and how he's integrated since, is so positive. And part of me, thinking, listening to this, being like, wow, like, could that have gone really wrong if
yeah,
you're sort of poking and bringing to light this internal rupture, right?
yes,
Like, how do you navigate that as a practitioner with confidence when you really don't know,
yeah,
right, what's going to happen?
yeah. It's a great question, and I think that Karin is a very skilled therapist. I have a lot of experience. I've been doing this kind of therapy for a while. I don't want to put too much credit on the therapist, but I just wanted to speak to that as part of the set and setting.
Hmm.
But the set and setting goes very deep here in the sense that he's in a safe place, feels safe with us. Um, Underneath that is the space that we're in, which is incredibly well set up for this kind of work and has a great history of, being one of the MDMA trial sites here in Montreal.
Hmm.
He was cared for by a team of doctors and nurses and stuff that, um, like, did the appropriate and necessary medical
Hmm.
care. He has Health Canada approval. There's a whole team
Mm-hmm.
behind the medical team where they're talking about stuff and how to support the client, the patient. There's the refuge team that's behind Karine and me. And so, and just the broader cultural context of psychedelics in this moment, I feel like all of that
Mm-hmm.
brought so much
Right.
support for the
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
and I think contributed a lot.
Yeah. Um, it says a lot about the need for a real supportive ecosystem of care to help folks move through these really challenging, not just challenging actual healing process.
Totally.
Um, the last thing I'll just sort of picking up on that, the last thing I'll say, and then we can maybe let folks dive into the episode. Don't want to spoil too much, but just the three treatments,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and the real sense of like, okay, the first one was dealing with the anxiety, like that there's this first layer that actually had to be approached, and then going in and kind of noticing that there are these two parts of him, and then then the third treatment where there was a lot of resistance, right? There's a beautiful moment where you actually talk about him trying to bail, right?
Hmm.
And like, again, there's one of those judgment calls where you're like, well, you sure this isn't some, right? And pushed him a little bit, which maybe that could have gone a different way, who knows?
Totally.
But he ends
Totally.
up going in and then re-experiencing all this stuff and actually having some real seemingly integrated healing from it. Yeah, it was a reminder of just how many layers there can be to
Hmm.
to move through, and how potentially necessary those three treatments might have been, right? If he
Hmm.
had just had one or two, like where would he be right now? And so I guess the last question is: this is still a relatively recent recovery for him. How do you
Yeah.
feel about his? I mean, it's not to call it miraculous, but just some of what he's no longer experiencing, including dropping entirely his benzodiazepine use and other
Yeah.
medication use is like
Yeah.
is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
How do you feel about his longer term well-being and the
Yeah.
sustainability of that?
Yeah. That's, I guess, always one of the big
Mm-hmm.
questions with these treatment resistant conditions and the
Mm-hmm.
psychedelics. Um, we're now, let's see, yeah, we're about 5, 6 months out,
Mm-hmm.
and he's still doing well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really encouraging. The hope is that the intervention had a curative effect,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but we'll have to see. We'll have to
Mm-hmm.
see.
Great.
I'm hopeful.
Great.
All right. So, yeah, without any further ado, here's my interview with Giuliano Biagioni. Okay. I am here with Giuliano. Giuliano, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to just start us off with just a quick comment here. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself in one sec, but um, just want to name the fact that these are somewhat unusual circumstances, right? I am a psychologist and a psychedelic assisted therapist, and you were or are my client, right? And it's not every day that, um, therapists interview clients in a sort of a public setting like this. And so I just wanted to, first of all, say I'm really grateful to you for coming here and opening up about the experience you had when we did MDMA assisted therapy. And I just, yeah, I'm going to, given that context, I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself, tell us your name and who you are, and why you wanted to sort of come forward and share your experience with the world.
All right. So my name, thank you, Joe. My name is Giuliano Biagioni. I'm 41 years old, and I was a victim of gunshot trauma back in Toronto in 2013. Um, this incident changed my life in a lot of different ways. I went through a big coma for 3 weeks. I was in the critical care for 2 months. I was in rehabilitation for a year. I went through over 25 different surgeries. The bullet went through my whole body. Uh, Obviously, I was diagnosed PTSD severe from that trauma. Um, and I've tried a lot of different things since then to help me um, deal with the trauma, deal with everything that the handicaps and everything that I went through. I've tried like from yoga to therapy and whatnot. I tried everything: rapid eye movement, suggestion, hypnosis. Nothing worked. Well, the best thing was therapy, obviously, but I still had all those issues. And then what happened is I had to take a lot of medication to help me. I'm gonna use the word survive here because I feel like this was the situation I was in, and then years were passing by, and doses were getting higher and higher, and I was not getting any better. So I've read about MDMA-assisted therapy or the other ones with mushroom, ketamine, and so I went down a little bit the rabbit hole there, and I felt like my my accident compares a lot to people from who goes to war. So I felt like for PTSD like me, MDMA was the right molecule. So from there, I started contacting different clinics in Montreal. It was very early in the industry, and nothing happened from there. And years passed by, and then I still had a note on my computer to look for a clinic in Montreal. And then I contacted you, and you answered me back, and the rest is history. So um, I felt I was in a place, a very dark place when I contacted you guys.
Yeah.
My anxiety was out of control completely. Nightmares were still like very, very vivid and very hard for me every night. So basically just for the last 12 years, every time I would go to sleep, it was hard for me because I knew where I was getting into. It was like I was fighting with myself, nightmares, and I would more than almost all the time I would wake up in the morning more tired than when I went to sleep because I was fighting in my mind every night. So then we met and you felt like my case. I was a good like client,
Good
patient.
candidate.
Yeah, good candidate for you guys.
Yeah.
And we started the process.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just a couple of kind of details there. Number one, just for the listeners, I want you, Giuliano, to feel comfortable to like throw in some French if it's rolling off the tongue more easily.
Yeah.
You know, the work we've done has really been in both languages, and I'll help out as needed. But obviously, your English is great, and I just want you to feel comfortable. And just the audience should be warned that we might get some of your nice French. I wanted to mention too that when I spoke to the psychiatrist that evaluated you for your appropriateness for MDMA-assisted therapy, one of the things she said was, "Yeah, seems like a pretty straightforward PTSD case, but the nightmares seem unusual. Like she'd not seen someone with such severe, such kind of regular nightmares, like the way you described it, like every single night, super intense nightmares. And we're talking like 10 plus years of that, 12 years of that." And so she's like, the psychiatrist was like, "Seems like a good candidate. I just don't know what's going to happen with the nightmares." And we'll sort of obviously circle back to that. I also wanted to say for people that aren't aware, um, with our medical partners at Sante Cannabis, we had to prepare an application to what's known as the Special Access Program at Health Canada. And this is the legal kind of regulatory system that gives people access to psychedelics under very specific circumstances. And basically, what this program is evaluating is they want to make sure that, you know, this is very experimental and new and untested to some extent treatment. And they want to make sure that the applicants of this program have tried basically everything else available, that they have a severe condition, and that they're not really well, obviously, and not functioning especially well in their lives. And so you met criteria for the special access program. They granted access, and then that was a great relief for everybody. And I think that was spring 2024. And it was almost a full year later that we actually got started. So just to give everybody a sense of what the process is like. And so, yeah, let's jump into some of those first
I,
those
I
first
also
meetings.
forgot
Yeah, go ahead.
if I can, Joe.
Yeah.
I also lived different grief
Yes.
after the trauma. I forgot to talk about it. So
Yeah.
my sister died from breast cancer the same year I was shot, and my father died from leukemia in 2016, but was suffering from the disease for. He got sick the same year I was shot. So basically, my mother was having a hard time with the husband dying, both kids having a hard time, and it was very hard for me. And for me, uh, grief was very hard because I was already
Mhm.
struggling with what happened to me. So I think it's part of the everything that I'm carrying on my shoulders since 2012. So
Totally.
I think it's important to know.
Super important.
Yeah.
It's important just because it's a big part of your story. It's also important in terms of understanding trauma, which is we know that, PTSD or post-traumatic stress in general isn't just a function of like an event. It's always the event and what happens after, or the event and how it sort of lands in your life. And if you have the resources and the support around you to sort of process and heal from it. And your sister, as I understand, was a very important source of support for you.
Yes.
And that just complicated your healing and recovery from your own trauma.
Definitely.
Not to mention the other need of like just making sense of and dealing with these other huge changes in your life and loss and grief, etc. And we were also talking before we hit record that you had a job, actually not a job, a business. You were running a business, and you, as soon as you left the hospital, barely able to move and function, you're right back on your laptop trying to keep the business alive. Is that right?
Yeah. And I remember when I woke up from the coma, I was in a delirium, but I remember that I kept saying, "Did you ship my boxes?"
Oh my
Because
God.
you could. I was still so much like invested in my work in the business. Because it's a family owned business, and I
Yeah.
was in charge of almost everything.
Yeah.
Um, so even my mind was still obsessed and trying to ship those boxes, and it was you can see it was taking a toll on me, like, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so here we are. It's now spring 2025, and we start meeting for some prep sessions. And of course, we should mention my dear friend and colleague, Karine Saint Jean, who was my co therapist and regrets not being here today, but her role and impact was enormous. And
Yes.
it's really, for us as therapists, really interesting to be able to work together, with a colleague and someone that I know and trust. And I know you appreciate her. So just want to give a shout out to Karine as well. Um, we met for these prep sessions, and this is kind of how life is, right? You have this awful 12 years that you're trying to deal with, and you finally get this approval from this, the green light from the regulators to do it. And right as we're kind of getting started, there's another event in your life, like the loss of really important personal relationship,
Yes.
that kind of hijacked the first kind of sessions. What do you remember from that period?
But um, I think what happened is with the PTSD and all the emotional like baggage that I'm dragging around, I feel like any time something difficult happens to me, any it was like family related, love, work, you name it. I feel like it it it's very overwhelming for me very quickly. And I
Uh-huh.
used to be much more able to deal with this stuff. It's like normal stuff that happens to any human being.
Mhm.
And for me, it was everything gets so much harder because I don't have any mental space
Yeah.
to deal with this stuff because I'm already full with the
Yes.
dealing with myself was so hard. Dealing with external stuff affecting me daily, it was just unbearable at some point. And when we met, I was struggling a lot in the last year, and then I remember when I first met Karine, she told me, "You're clenched, my friend." Like
Yes.
my jaw was clenched, my hands were like I was in like a very bad shape,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah.
And it did hijack, but I think it was there was a silver lining in there
Mm.
because it helped us. start from there. So it was
Yes.
like the baby steps. So that was the angle that we saw, and
Yeah.
we used it like to our advantage.
Yeah.
Um, I really appreciated it.
Yeah. So I would just one piece of that preparatory phase that I remember that I think was important was one of the sessions we did some parts work, right? This is the IFS model that I use a lot. And if you remember, I asked you to close your eyes and I guided you through this exercise where you came into dialogue with your anxiety. Do you remember that?
Yes, and there's something I feel that's very important here
Yeah.
because I did a lot of therapy, a lot with a lot of different people. Not my first rodeo, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And just this approach to being able to, okay, how do you feel? You have hate. Well, ask your hate to come and see us and tell the hate that we don't need it today. Like
Mhm,
thank that you can say thank you to that feeling and bring the other one that we want to talk with,
mhm,
speak with. Like anxiety, that's the main concern we have. So just bring it up. And
mhm.
I was able
Yeah.
without MDMA, and I was able to start opening that channel inside of me, and talk with those emotions that I've
Yes.
been dealing with since forever.
Yeah.
Like 12 years for me, it's almost a lifetime, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I think that was, it really helped understand the whole, what was I was getting into,
Yes.
being able to start talking with my emotions and be able to separate everything. Because for me, when my Karen said it very well, like the noise, you have
Yes.
noise in your head, and being able to separate all these emotions in different boxes and say come and put them like as like persons, come and see us, thank you. I felt like that was a game changer for me, the way to approach the whole thing. And with
Yes.
the MDMA, we're going to talk about it later, it it was like opened this course between me and all those emotions. So it was kind of crazy.
Yeah. That's awesome. Um, that's a little bit of a window into what it's like to try to heal trauma without psychedelics or without MDMA. And you sort of got a feel for what that looks like. It might have taken longer, um, might have been sort of like more nonlinear or more complex or whatever, but that's what it looks like. And it was also I think an important moment for Karen and I because it was short. I think we did maybe a 20-minute IFS session. And Karine and I looked at each other after and we were like, wow, he's good. You got it immediately. You got into dialogue. You went deep very quickly, which was encouraging to us because it reflected a sense of trust and willingness to go there. You went really deep right away. And that was, again, a sort of an encouraging sign in a sense of like, wow, Giuliano has a lot of resources. He's intelligent. He's psychologically minded. He's ready to go. And it was sort of at that point we were thinking this is probably going to go well. And even though you were, you were quite panicky, right? There was panic
Oh yeah.
attacks, and the anxiety was very high. There was a high level of discomfort. But that kind of we brought that in because I think the MDMA session was like the next day or shortly after that
Yep.
session we were just talking about. And of course, the intention often with the first MDMA session in this protocol is like, okay, how does this person's body react to MDMA? What is this dose going to feel like? Just feeling out, right? Often the goal isn't necessarily more than that in the first session. But we also had this anxiety to work with. And I'd like to kind of talk with that first session now. And I'm sure you have your memory of it, and you even have your notes open on your computer, as if I understand correctly. I just want to just name a couple of things that really jumped out for me, and we can just kind of jam on that
That's
for a
good.
second. So, um, again, the intention was to kind of get to know your anxiety or talk to your anxiety. In At one point, you said, "Oh, we're the same person. We can actually both be happy." Right? There was an insight into the perspective of this other part. And then there was also, I remember at a certain point, just like naming all of the, pardon my French, all the shit you had to deal with in the days, weeks, months, and years after the trauma, you did a sort of like an overview and named all these things, but presumably because of the MDMA and the context we were in, there was a sense of like new possibilities and a new way of dealing with it. So that's for me kind of like what I remember, what I took away. What comes to mind for you when you reflect on that first session?
Well, for me, I think if one word to describe the first session was anxiety. That was, I think, the main theme.
Yeah.
Um, and we were trying to understand like what the night and the day, because I was highly functional.
Yes.
I was always been highly functional during the day,
Yeah.
and everything was coming out at night. And then by talking with my anxiety, then it told us, um, I'm doing this during the night because you're not listening to me during the day.
Wow. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that was it. Just this line
Yeah.
changed everything from me regarding my anxiety, because we knew that my anxiety was trying to tell me something and I was shutting it down. So it was manifesting itself in different ways,
Yeah.
especially nightmares.
Yes.
And then I remember my anxiety didn't want me to be happy at some point.
Yes.
Um, Again, I think it's coming from the fact that I'm not listening to it. So I'm like, I'm gonna mess you up, and it really did. I
Yeah.
think at that point in my life, anxiety was at the upper hand. And then anxiety and nightmares came from the same place. So
Yeah.
when we understood that, um, I felt like I made peace with my anxiety,
Yes.
and I realized a lot of different things. Like another thing we have to mention is when I said talking is coping.
Yes.
Um, in French, I'm very talkative.
Yeah.
Maybe obnoxious at some point. But again, I felt like this is like defense mechanism that I have.
Yes.
And then from there, there's a lot of different defense mechanism that we went through first, second, third session,
Yes.
and we were able to see those mechanisms that I knew I had, but I never like pinpointed them.
Yes.
So I was becoming really aware during the first session, but I feel like we kept it on the surface. We didn't want to go too deep.
Yeah.
What happened with in my life during that period of time was a good starting point, and then um, my after the first session, my anxiety went from like 10 on 10 to like basically 0. It never came back, and that was back in June. The
That was
first
May.
No, May. Sorry,
Yeah.
May.
Yeah.
So we opened Pandora's box at that point. I feel
Yeah.
like we like that was it. So
Yeah.
we had a channel open to deal with everything else from there. And we
Totally.
felt, both of us felt confident that we can change. I can change, and there's a lot of potential there that
Yeah.
needs to be exploited. Yep.
Yeah, totally. We got off to a great start.
Yeah.
I'll just double down on your statement that you can talk a lot, and the MDMA brought that out. Kathleen and I, at the end of that first session, I mean, you probably talked for 4 hours straight, and I left that session. I'm like, oh, like so tired, because um, everything you were saying was super valuable and super real, and you were vulnerable and opening up. And I was like drinking from a fire hose the whole time, carrying too. And after like 20 minutes, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a long day. And we actually got supervision for this. There was someone from MAPS, was supporting us through this. And we talked to her about this. And the idea was, and this is actually very common, by the way. I don't know if anyone's taken MDMA or sat for anyone that has taken MDMA, but it is a stimulant, right? It is a form of methamphetamine. And so people get excited and people want to talk, and people want to, it's a particular form of excitement and stimulation. It takes a kind of a social and relational quality. And so this is a big thing. And I've seen this before in my own practice. And I was afraid I guess some reflections, self-disclosure here. I was afraid I might not have enough energy to stay with you through the arc of the whole treatment. And I also didn't want to be too judgmental or invalidating about your need to talk. And so Kat and I talked a lot about this. We talked to the supervisor about it. And I think in the integration session, we discussed the talking thing as a form of avoidance or a coping strategy, as you said. And you picked up on it immediately. And your point there that the recognition, the identification and recognition of that as a coping strategy among all the others was hugely valuable, right? We got to see how your system was protecting you from what was there underneath, which we'll get to later. So yeah, that was a really big piece as well. Thank you for bringing that up. And yeah, like just so amazing, surprising and amazing that the anxiety just kind of disappeared.
Yep.
And has not come back.
No. And you remember we spoke about it. I was like testing myself. Well, I was thinking about like stuff that used to trigger my anxiety and like kept doing it over and over. I'm like, is it going to come back? Is it just like there for like, am I going to be fine for a week because we just did the therapy, but never came back. Never came back.
It's amazing. So I think what we just named kind of we processed together in the integration. And now we can kind of move over to the second session, the second MDMA session. And yeah, what do you remember from that moment heading into the second one?
Well, the before we when we did the prep session before,
yes,
I think I was ready to work.
Yes,
I was ready to go to work, and
Yes.
I was not scared yet. So
Yes.
we're gonna talk about it later.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I know how MDMA works now,
Yes.
and I want to visit these traumas. I want to visit the whole thing.
Yes.
And you and Karen told me like you might get dark, it might get difficult, overwhelming. We're there. If you need physical touch, if you need like anything, we're there. But I felt like I had to go to war at that point. Like like the first time was like all of fun and games, but now it's the real stuff was starting at the second session.
Yeah.
And I realized before the first and the second session that I was talking to myself in the you form.
Yes.
And like, yeah. So like it's like there was somebody else talking to me in my head. And I realized that before the second session, and I felt like that was another coping mechanism or a defense mechanism. And I need to, we need to figure out what's going on here. And then the second session came.
Yeah.
And I realized very quickly, I think it was quite kind of quick that I realized that there was two Giulianos.
Yes.
So you want me to talk about it now? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let me actually set that up because I remember very, very well.
Better than me for sure.
You took the MDMA at the beginning of the second session. And I think you nailed it. Your intention was like, okay, I get what this is about. Let's roll up our sleeves and get some work done or go to war. That was exactly the mindset. And that seemed promising at the time, you know. The MDMA came on and it was one of these like awful like moments of like really being like you came across as, or we saw you as like really stuck. It was uncomfortable. You said you're trying to get to the center of it all, but it was a big fight. That's what you were experiencing. And then, yes, there was this sort of like insight, and I'm going to let you tell it from there. There was this sort of like shift. And I remember it because it was playing out in the music. The phase of the music we were listening to was like very kind of low energy, was abstract. It was like this sort of like ego disintegration kind of thing. And I was like, this guy needs some music with more energy. He needs to sort of like work with something and move energy around. And then I'll let you take it from there. What did you discover in that moment?
Yeah. So the thing that was important in the second session was the two Giulianos.
Yes.
I I think I split my consciousness in two when after the incident.
Yeah.
One of the Giulianos was fine, and the other one was in terrible shape and was going through like all this different stuff at the hospital, the surgeries. But me, I was the one that was fine. So I
Yes.
never really dealt with the Giuliano that was in the hospitals, and it was we spoke about it, and you told me that it was okay because it was a way to preserve and protect myself because I
Yes.
was going through like like hell basically.
Yes.
Uh, but it stayed that way, and by staying that way, it became very hard for me to have like a regular life when you're split. Your conscience is split in two.
Totally.
And then I realized that we need to put these two Giulianos on top of each other and become one. Like, and I want
Yeah.
peace between these two guys.
Yes.
And then we after we met a lot of other Giulianos like anxiety, nightmare Giuliano, and all these different layers of my consciousness, and
Yeah.
everything came. The conclusion was that we need to like really put them back together so I can be my real self.
Yes.
Um, and then again, something came out like that I was dead during the day and alive during the night,
Yes.
something like that.
Yep.
And is it safe to let go? I
Yes.
felt like there was a relationship that was made, and breaking that like structure was very hard for me, and I couldn't do it by myself. But well, I didn't even know it was there in the first place.
Yes.
But then when I realized it, I didn't know if it was safe to do what we were gonna do. And I have some notes here that said that that part overstayed its welcome,
Yes.
and I think that's very important here.
So which part overstayed its welcome?
Well, the one that was fine, I'm the real me was the one that suffered and went through the trauma.
Yeah.
So that Giuliano that's fine and there's gonna joke around and just not care really that much about what happened. It'll be a little bit detached of the reality,
Yeah.
if I may. Um, and we talk about like Stockholm there. Like I'm
Yes.
attached to the that person that's making my life miserable.
Yes.
So then I realized that it was not only the gunshot that was the problem, it was everything else that happened around it. Like
Yes.
all my relationship got affected, all my health got affected by the handicaps, and all all these um all these things that I felt like I didn't really care about those things. But then I realized that all these different details adds up to like a lot on your
Yeah.
conscience. Um so again, for loving myself was a big talk that we had, like learn
Mhm.
to love yourself,
Mhm.
and made peace with it. Again, peace is something that always came back, like being peace with my anxiety, being peace with my two Giulianos,
Yes.
and I felt that we kind of like it worked. That
Yes.
we So after that session, I felt a big void inside of me. We spoke
Mhm.
about it. I felt like I was very sad. I felt like I've like wasted 12 years of my life
Yes.
with the PTSD. It was like bittersweet because on the one hand I was appreciating like simple stuff like looking at the clouds while driving
Yeah.
in my car. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, these clouds are beautiful, life is beautiful. And then I got sad because I'm like, why didn't I enjoy this for the last 12 years? Where was I? um so I felt like this, like there was a void inside of me, and then thinking about the third session became very hard for me.
Mhm.
I was a little bit in a weird place mentally between.
Yep.
After the first one, I felt like anxiety is gone, this is great. The second one, I felt like I'm realizing like very deep stuff, and it's moving a lot of stuff inside of my head and in my body. So I was very anxious, not anxious, scared
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
going into the third one.
Mhm.
And then if you want me to talk about it, we can start
Yeah,
talking about
let's
it.
just pause
Yeah.
there for a second. I just
Yeah.
wanted to name a couple things. You, in terms of um, repairing with this other part of you, you said there really are two people fighting for my happiness. We are
Yes.
finally in symbiosis for the first time. Is it safe to let go? I mean, such like beautiful and evocative and like really authentic kind of language there that just came directly out of our notes. In the framework that we use to kind of like process this and make meaning out of this, tell me and push back if none of this sort of like resonates with how you understand it. Um, we talked about this splitting off that you described as like a really helpful way to cope with that extreme set of circumstances. And, some people call it dissociation, which would be familiar to people who experience post-traumatic stress. In the IFS framework, we talk about protectors, right? This other part of you that was like shielding you from this extreme suffering that you were dealing with. It kind of showed up to protect you so that you could actually go ahead and get on with your life and actually run your business, etc. And so you got to the point where you were able to observe this fight and see that it's all playing out inside of you. It's all you, right? And then you sort of like open your heart to this other part of you, but then it's like, well, what do I do now? Like,
Yeah.
is it okay to let this guy go or what? How did you end up coming to some peace with that?
Well, I felt just the fact that that I understood that this was happening inside of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that was like a huge discovery. And then it helped me in the upcoming weeks, like the month before the other session, I was able to have a better internal dialogue with myself, because I realized that sometimes I was maybe not talking to myself. I was talking to this other
Right.
Giuliano,
Yeah.
and dealing with my emotions as well. So sometimes I feel like my emotions were really I was confused with what emotions I was
Yes.
feeling, because a part of me wanted something and that other part didn't want the same thing.
Yes.
But I'm the same person. So it
Yes.
was a lot of confusion in the past
Yes.
12 years. And I could see through that in the weeks after, and like, oh, okay, now I understand my emotions better now.
Right.
And that's, I think, that really as well just caused this void inside of me, that like, oh, I'm understanding my emotions, I'm understanding my dialogue. So it was taking so much space.
Yes.
And again, what Karen said, I that word, like, for me, the noise
Yeah.
inside my head, so it became clear.
Yes.
And that clear thinking made, like, I'll give a lot of empty space at the same time.
Wow.
I don't know if it makes sense.
Totally.
Yep.
Super helpful. And yeah, so let's get into that third session, because you did come in to the prep session the day before not in great shape.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I actually want to just cover one other thing before I forget, and I think the
Go ahead.
timing is appropriate here. I think it was after the second session, but it might have been after the first. You please let me know. I understood at one point that you were taking 5 to 6 benzodiazepines per day. I don't know which one it
Clonazepams?
was.
Is it clonazepams? Yeah.
Clonazepam. Yeah. Benzodiazepine is the sort of like the category. You're taking
Okay.
5 or 6 of those every day.
Yeah, not supposed to.
What's that?
I'm not supposed to.
Well, maybe that's how it was prescribed, because you were.
No, it was not. It
Yeah.
it was supposed to be when I have like these anxiety attacks, and when it would be getting overwhelming, just to help me deal with it.
Yeah.
Because it's just a short period of time,
Yeah.
not something I should take daily, not something I should take in multiple doses.
Yes.
The
reason why you would have gotten that recommendation or that warning is that these things are highly addictive. And, I think generally when someone gets a prescription for clonazepam, it's like, okay, take these to get through this, like, especially painful moment or period or weeks or whatever. But then, you need to let them go after, because they're addictive. They're actually incredibly effective in reducing anxiety. That's partly why they're addictive. And they're incredibly difficult to come off of, right? The withdrawal's bad. And this is a huge problem, an underreported problem in psychiatry, that a lot of people take a lot of these benzos and it's not healthy. And then, we can habituate and need more and more doses. So you were taking 5 or 6 per day, and that sort of habit went back many months, as far as I understand. And
Not many months. It was like period of times.
Okay.
But it was not constant. Like for years, I didn't have any anyway. So it was because I was in bad shape at that point. So
Yes.
I was going through something very hard emotionally, and every day was very, very hard for me.
Yeah. So I think it was after the second session that you just like stopped taking.
I had to stop before starting. No, it's Dr. Paik. If you remember, she asked me before the first session, I needed to stop those pills like 10 days or 2 weeks before the first session. And then after the first session, anxiety went through 0.
Right.
So I never took them again.
Gotcha.
So they were out of the picture there.
It was after the first session that you just stopped the benzos, haven't taken them since, just not an issue anymore.
Never touched it again since then.
I think that's a big deal. I just wanted to flag it because I'm increasingly aware of this issue in psychiatry, that a lot of people take them and it's hard to stop. So that's great. Let's come back to coming into the third session. There's this more space, greater insight into how your system's working, but also I don't know, you're down, you're stressed, there's stuff going on.
I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I just don't want to go. I tried everything I could to cancel it.
Yes.
And then you're like, if I may, you're like, is it possible that you know where what you're getting into, and that this is a defense mechanism because of maybe fear?
Yeah.
And as soon as you said that, I'm like, yes. Like, I'm like, yes. There was something inside of me fighting very, very hard to prevent me from doing that third session.
So this was a kind of touch and go there for a minute, because I think the messages started coming in sometime that week. Can we reschedule? There was this big, I don't know, sort of crisis in your work because you needed to, or there was the possibility of selling your business, which was a very important priority. And everything was sort of coming to a head, and you're like, I'm not ready. I'm not sure I'm going to be in the right frame of mind. I'm too stressed. And we looked at the options. Can we reschedule? We're bumping up against the summer vacations, because now we're, I think, kind of June at this point. And, I sort of raised the possibility that this was some internal thing, right? That was adding some friction to the process. And that's, that discussion seemed to kind of unlock, and you turned on a dime. You're like, actually, there was a question of like, if we reschedule Giuliano, I'm not sure when, because this nurse and these vacation times, and we don't know when we're going to get a chance to do it. So I think it might be very difficult if we don't go ahead. And at one point, you just turn on a dime. You're like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, there was a fight inside of me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because I feel like first session got rid of the anxiety. Second session opened like my mind.
Yes.
Completely. So the third one, again, like I like to say, like the channel that opening inside of me. Now the door was wide open, and I feel like something knew it inside of me, and that was protecting me.
Yes.
For the better or the worst, I don't know, but that part of me like was trying very, very hard. Like, don't go there. You don't want to go there. You don't want to touch this.
Yes.
So I was trying to find out any excuses to postpone.
Yes.
And I feel like even if we had postponed, my feeling would have been the same.
Yes.
So,
yes. So you take the MDMA at the beginning of the third session, and you know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
You the first, I think it was like 45 minutes or so. You're struggling. You're sort of tightening up. You're uncomfortable.
Yep.
You said foggy, confused, and you said I have the sense of something blocking something painful underneath. That's what you said. And then what happened?
I went inside, closed my eyes, put the earphones on, and I came back very quickly with an answer.
Yeah.
And the answer was, it was a trauma.
Yeah. You took off the eye shades. You looked up and he says, I know what it is. I know what's under there. It's the trauma. Fuck.
I still think that's very funny because
Yeah.
it's like it's the reason why I was there in the first place, right?
Yeah.
The trauma, and then I was like, that discovery for me was like a game
Yeah.
changer. Oh, I know
Yeah.
what's going on. It's the
Yeah.
trauma, but the way I was seeing it was
Yeah.
a different angle from the same thing everybody knows, right?
Yes.
But from
Yes.
me, I was like seeing it for what it really was, the trauma
Yes.
that I never talked to, I never like acknowledged. Um, so again, that opened that door.
Yeah.
Let's talk to that trauma and see what's in there.
Yeah. And what
And that's
happened?
the thing I didn't want to go because
Yes.
that's where everything happened. That's
Yeah.
when two Giulianos happened. This is when the anxiety started.
Yeah.
This is like the first day of that life, that the
Yeah.
PTSD life. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened from there in the MDMA session?
it was very physical.
Yeah.
That one was very very physical. My heart rate was through the roof. My pressure was like almost like I had to go to the emergency at the
Yeah.
end.
The nurse almost didn't let you go home.
Yeah. I showed it to my doctor actually this week, and he said, "Yeah, well, you just went through a big event, you know, mentally and physically. So like, I'm not stressed about it." So I'm like, "Okay, I'm fine." But it was very very it was very hard, that one for me.
Yeah.
I think that one I can say that one was hard. That's something that you remember these sessions, and you're like, it's not a walk in the park. It's not something that you would do. Like it was demanding. I remember at the end of that day, I was wasted, exhausted, like mentally and physically. I gave it all. So what I saw in there, I think we wanted to talk with that protector that was protecting the trauma.
Yeah.
I spoke about the trauma. I felt for the first time what I really felt at the hospital.
Yes.
So these old emotions that were repressed, or I was avoiding, I don't know what terms you guys use, but they came back.
Yeah.
And full blown.
Yeah.
And it was hard, but again, bittersweet.
Mm.
There's a part of it that was hard, but there's a part of me that was very happy to be able to see these things, not again, but see these things for what they really were,
Yes.
and giving myself, I'm allowed to feel these things.
Yeah.
Because again, I wanted to protect my family. I didn't want my mother to see me in this state.
Uh-huh.
But then I'm like, I'm allowed to be heartbroken. I'm allowed to feel this way. I'm allowed to be sad. I'm allowed to be. I don't like my handicaps that I have now, and all these emotional traumas. So I had a lot of flashbacks, and I went back. I remember I didn't talk that much. I always talk a lot, but
No, you
but it
were
was
inside
less.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
were
was inside a lot. I remember like for science with the
Yeah. Yeah. That was funny.
and
Always a sense of humor, which is beautiful.
yeah. And I remember more than once. I think I came back, and it was very too overwhelming, and so I was like, I need a break here, because I was like digging very very deep into my soul. I'm not a spiritual guy, but I became a spiritual guy after the MDMA therapy. That's for sure. What came out of it? It happened to me.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah. Can you unpack that? That was such an important phrase, and it's not obvious what you mean by that.
Again, I think it's the two Giulianos that like it happened to me. And it did happen. So all these things that my mind was trying to do, not I don't want to say to trick me, to protect me at that point. And I remember I said a lot of times, it was good when it happened, but it became toxic.
Yes.
So it was good to preserve me back in the day, but then it became toxic because it took over my whole life, took over my quality of life, and it affected everything from my work to my relationships to my even my sleep. So and then I made peace, because I think you told me to. I remember something you said. Do you see somebody in charge of your nightmares? And I said, yes. How old is he? I'm like, he's 29 years old. And then you said, how old were you when you got shot? I was 29 years old. And I didn't realize that that's why you were asking those questions, because I was probably very, very high. And and it made sense, a lot of sense. So, and then that protector, when I was able to make peace with him, and then I think that's the most beautiful thing that happened in the whole therapy. And what is he gonna? You asked me, what is he gonna do now? What did he say? So you want to dance? And that for me was that was it. I'm in peace with that part of myself that was protecting everything. He became useless at that point, but he was still there because it's me. I'm not you, and you often told me, don't push it away. Like, I don't need him. No, he's part of you. It's you. So what does he want now? Let's dance. We're good. So that was huge.
Yep.
That was huge.
Yep. Man, so much beautiful stuff there. For some reason, I part of that session that stayed with me. And again, you tell me if this is an accurate kind of retelling of what you went through. What I understood, and it really was like you would like go inside. We could see you kind of struggling, like really at war, like struggling and doing this really, really intense work. You'd come out, you need a break. We'd like catch up. You'd talk a little bit. Again, always a sense of humor. You would like say something funny, like, okay, for science, and dive back in. Right. And then you'd come out and then you'd go back in and say something like, okay, there's not that much time. You gotta keep going. Right. You rolled up your sleeves and you got to work. It was really incredible. And, you said something to the effect of like, you were seeing you called them flashbacks earlier. You were seeing the specific moments when you're at the hospital, for example, in the ambulance, and like a whole bunch, like dozens and dozens of little moments like that. And you said, I didn't get a chance to feel anything in those moments, so I'm feeling it all now. And I'm just picturing this like nervous system with all these networks, and there's a memory, but the emotion is sort of disconnected from the memory. And you just went through like dozens of these like reconnecting kind of like work sessions, and it was very fast and very intense. And you felt one after the other what it was like to be in the ambulance, bleeding out, right? Or in the hospital, hearing, you said many times, the beeping of the machines. Didn't feel much then, but the emotion was there. You made the connection. You kind of like moved on to the next. Does that sound right? That's what I understood.
Yeah, and it was very difficult. I remember that part. I was very I was clenched, like, because my mind was, I was not in control at that point when I was like closing my eyes with the music and everything.
Yes.
So I let like the MDMA do the work.
Yes.
And it was like throwing images, but like, like when you see these montage in movies and with like that song, that was exactly it, like, but not the good parts. So
right.
It was all the hard stuff that I went through, and all the stuff that I remember, like from noises, smell, all these different, my senses were all like shifting all over the place.
Yep.
And connecting these little details with the emotions that were related to it.
Yes.
That I never, both of them were always disconnected.
Yes.
From the get-go. So doing this was like, it was bringing me back basically to the trauma itself.
Yes.
So that was very hard. That's for sure. That was very hard, but it was again, peace was something that I was looking for.
Yes.
And that was the right way to make peace.
Yes.
With these events. Yeah. That I always felt like, oh, it happened. It's behind me. It's been a while, so I'm good. I'm doing great. I'm fine. And no, I was not doing fine at all. That's for sure.
Right.
But I was repeating to myself and everybody I would meet, I'm fine now. It's okay. It's okay.
I find it really amazing, the phrase you said, like, that was the right way to find peace, right? And like, you didn't know that before. I didn't know that before. If we had the recipe, it's like, okay, session 3, this is the steps you need to go. Like, we didn't know that, right? It's this kind of journey that's hard to sort of predict and hard to manage, but you found your own way into the way to find peace.
Yep.
And it was just this beautiful, unexpected, and very real moment of healing. That whole session was. And so, yeah. And again, I often just, want to give you a huge amount of credit for being
Thank you.
willing to show up, like literally and metaphorically show up for that, and to just like keep going for it, even though it was unbelievably uncomfortable.
Yep. And I remember also when I made peace with myself and I said, "Let's dance." I
Yeah.
remember that also there was a song that was playing at some
Yeah.
point that made me
Yes.
think about my sister,
Right.
and it was dancing again with my sister. So that's a team
Yeah.
there was a team there for sure. And again, we never really went into my father's death or my
Uh-huh.
sister passing away, but I feel like dealing with that part, just the rest came by itself. So
Yeah.
I feel like I made peace with my sister. I give grief. I grieved my sister and my father properly afterwards by
Uh-huh.
myself
Uh-huh.
because I was allowing myself now, and there was no more noise inside of my mind.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of things from that therapy
Yeah.
that's gonna help these other layers of my
Right.
life, like a domino effect.
Right.
But I didn't know at that point. I'm
Right.
just I'm still trying to figure it out till this day because
Yes.
things change. I feel like I'm not the same person I used to be back
Yes.
in June and May.
Yes. Yeah. Your life has completely transformed. Maybe you could tell us how you're doing now since that. So that was in July. We're now September.
Yes.
So basically 2 months.
So I feel like I regained control of my whole life, my mind. I think my mind is the main thing. Since I first started, I stopped taking all the medication I used to take.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to take, I have a list here, the clonazepam that we spoke about earlier. For sleep, I used to take Prozazin and Seroquels.
Uh-huh.
I was taking a lot of naproxen because I was clenching too much. Um, and mirtazapine is the little pills that under the tongue. And I was taking gabapentin during the day and at night. And I stopped everything. So never in 1,000 years I could have imagined that something so the protocol is 3 sessions and my life's completely changed. I don't The only pills I take now is the ones I have to take for my survival. So stomach pills and blood pills. Other than that, I feel like I regain control of my consciousness and my sleep schedule. My sleep is doing way better now. I don't have any more nightmares. I feel like nightmares like regular people. So
Yeah.
well, I'm not sure, but from where I came from, it's a huge difference. Um, the trauma no longer controls me because it was controlling a lot of my life without me even being aware of it. Um, I want to continue therapy with you. That's for sure. And I think it's something you said to me that the consolidated story, like so my
Yes.
yeah, so everything's in place now at the right
Mm-hmm.
place. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm the guy I was 12 years ago,
Mm.
and the guy I'm supposed to be right now at 41 years old.
It's amazing. What do you make of that whole journey? Like, how do you understand what happened to you
I
in the
don't.
last?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't. Um, the You can't explain it to anybody before you start it.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Even afterwards, I had to. You have to tell me what I said and what I've done because I can't even remember because
Right.
I was too high and too like I don't know, involved.
Just for the
Um,
record, we did take notes and then we shared the notes with you. So what you learned from us was not totally disconnected from reality or some fantasy that we projected
yeah,
onto you, you know.
coerced.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be really careful with that with these substances.
Yep. So I'm having a hard time
Yeah.
explaining what happened to my friends, even my family.
Yeah.
Uh, for me, it was a game changer, and I don't know if we didn't decide where I was going. You guys basically just guided me, like as the minimum, the bare minimum, just letting me like I'm fine. I'm fine on my own, and I'm gonna go through this. And where I went was the work of the drugs, the molecule with where my mind wanted to go at that point.
Yeah.
Nothing was decided beforehand.
Right.
We had no idea what was going to happen, but everything came like I don't know if I could hope for a better conclusion.
Yeah. Me neither,
Or
to be honest. Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
best possible scenario for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, appreciate so much you telling your story, Giuliano. It's really awesome. It's really inspiring. Um,
Thank you.
I wonder, I kind of asked you this question off the top and then forgot to hold you accountable to it. Why did you want to come here and tell your story? Again, it's unusual. What's the motivation there?
Well, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
the means to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else in the same situation as me is not able to afford it, and I feel like it could really help a lot of people. The way it helped me, it could help anybody else. I feel like I've been dealing with this for 12 years. It's it's been like very very hard for me, and if it could help anybody else, and I could maybe pave the way for somebody else,
Yeah.
I want to do it. I want to help other people, and maybe the government, the RAMQ or CSST could like help and cover these therapy because just for instance, me cutting those molecules from my let's say forever,
Mhm.
government is going to save a lot at the end of the day. So
Talking about the
why not?
insurance for the medication.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
why not cover it in the
Yeah.
first place?
Yeah.
Everybody needs people like me and you doing this and making sure that we can help other people, and from there government will see it and say, oh, this is efficient, and it costs cut the costs. So
Right. Right. Yep. Any advice to someone out there that is contemplating doing something like this and is maybe scared or um, not sure if it's worth the
I,
risk or the cost or whatever?
yeah,
What advice would you
I
give?
think the secret is not to think about it too much,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the more you think about it, the more you're gonna you're based, you know.
Yes.
So if and you let it go, you I feel like I was really prepared, and I was really fed up of the way I was
Yes.
feeling emotionally and
Yeah.
physically, and I was like, I want to help myself. So you need to be in. I think you need to be in that state of mind, because the barriers that I had, I was willing to go through those barriers, and they were still there. So
Yes.
if you don't want to do it that much, you're not going to be able to go through those barriers, and the door will not open for you to
Yeah.
talk to
Yeah.
yourself properly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
be ready mentally, and just go in there with open arms, and like whatever happens happens. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. I just it brought me all over the place, but at the end of the day, we came out with a lot of great stuff for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for Kevin and me too. And we're really grateful for your courage and this uh, kind of like healing spirit that you have and the warrior spirit that you had that got you through the tougher moments. And so thank you so much for telling us your story and for going through it. And we couldn't be more delighted or more delighted by how well you're doing now. And yeah, just it was a privilege to work with you and
Thank you,
in the
Joe.
MDMA sessions, and of course, happy to keep going. And again, privileged to hear your story here, and grateful that you're willing to be open about it. So thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
Okay, Giuliano, I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.